All right, the pastor, our interim pastor was talking Sunday. How many of you were here Sunday morning for the preaching service? All right, all of you were, most of you. Was talking about what's going to happen and how things are going to be and the tough times and the good times that are going to be. 164 years old, 160, let's see, 164 years is our church life. That's a long time. And as he was preaching Sunday morning and leading us back and looking at that, and we had pictures of all the things that the church looked like in those days. We had ideas of how people dressed, and once in a while, you know, we have dress-up days of days gone by. My wife says all of her clothes are from days gone by, but you know how those things go. But we go back in memory and we look at all those things. But what we've got to understand is that none of us, maybe I better water that down just a bit. Most of us don't live in yesterday. Most of us try our best to live in today and looking forward. I have a computer. Sorriest thing I ever met. I just bought a new computer, and it's its brother. I'm trying my best to get into the computer age. I'm losing the battle faster every day. And I have friends that will come and say, "Preacher, this is how you do it." And I say, "Yes, sir." And I follow that, write it down. He walks out the door, and everything is a total line. Just gone. Just completely gone. Well, none of us, most of us, want to continue wearing old clothes or old-fashioned kinds of things. All of us want to update most of the time. We're always doing something to get new things coming in. But the problem is, in doing all those updating of things, clothing and housing and cars and gadgets, and we go to bed at 10 o'clock. It's none of your business, but that I'm just telling you. Because we watch the news, 15 minutes of news, click, that's all of it. But we want to stay up with the latest thing. And 10 o'clock news is the latest I care to stay up with. But that's pretty up to date, because when we get up at 6:30 next morning, you know, we're the first thing God does is turn on the TV. So you're right back, and they're repeating the exact same words they say at 10 o'clock. and you know, it just drives you nuts. But we're trying to update everything now. Here's something that maybe we ought to give a look at. We update everything we can. But have we given real good attention to updating our religion? Updating our relationship to God? Updating things that we ought to be involved in, or could be involved in, and should be maybe involved in. We do need to get up to date on religion. Maybe we're nearly there with most other things, but Jesus had some problems with people who followed him in his ministry. Most of the problems stemmed from the religious leaders of the day that said, who is this guy? Who does he think he is? And what's he doing with all these people that are following him? And have you heard the wild stories that he's telling, the things he's doing out there? And over in the book of Luke, the 5th chapter, and about the 23rd verse of that 5th chapter, let's see if I'm correct here. The 33rd verse of chapter 5 in Luke says, and they said to him, why do the disciples of John fast often and make prayers, and likewise the disciples of the Pharisees, but yours eat and drink? And he said to them, can you make the children of the bridegroom, of the bride chamber, fast while the bridegroom is with them? But the days will come when the bridegroom shall be taken away from them, and then shall they fast in those days. And he spoke spoke a parable to them. He said, no man puts a piece of a new garment upon an old one, otherwise, then both the new makes a rent, and the piece that was taken out of the new does not agree with the old. And no man puts new wine into old bottles, else the new wine will burst the bottles and be spilled, and the bottles will perish. But new wine must be put in new bottles, and both are preserved. No man also, having drunk old wine, straightway desires the new, for he says, the old is the better. But what's being said here is simply that the bridegroom, for example, in those days when you had a wedding, it was not a wedding where you invited them to come for an hour and you had the wedding, and then you had a little reception and you're gone. It was a 7-day deal, generally speaking. And it was, I've often wondered, where in the world did they put all the relatives? And all the friends who came and spent 7 days with you. I'd find me a new set of friends every time, evidently, because you'd get tired of the old ones hanging around. And what's being said here is, the bridegroom is there for 7 days. And it's not like you go to a funeral. You're celebrating a wedding, which is a joyous time during those moments. So many of us treat church as a dreaded kind of, that's not a fair statement, as a thing that we are kind of forced to do. And that may not be altogether true either. But we just, it's one of those things we do, and it's not necessarily a joyous kind of thing. But what I'm saying to us is it may very well be time for us to take a fresh look at our Christianity, at our church, at our other things. We're going to talk about that for just a moment. We just have a religion, and that religion has become, well, let me ask you this. Have you ever seen anybody walk into the church with a hooded look, or a frown on their face, or a dour look, or they are not happy? It's a chore for them to get to church, and it doesn't seem to uplift their spirits any to get there. Have you ever seen that? Well, sure you have. As a matter of fact, I've been one of them. You know? And I guess every one of us at one time or another would have to count ourselves as guilty on that. And what Jesus is saying here, we need to take a fresh look at some of these things. You don't go to a wedding and gripe. Well, that may not be so much anymore. But in those days, they didn't go to a wedding and fuss about things. They went to a wedding and they had a 7-day feast. Now, they may have fought after the 6th day, when all the food ran out and all the wine was gone and what have you. But nevertheless, it was a joyous time. And they planned for it for a long, long time. And now Jesus was saying this is the kind of thing the disciples were being taught by the master. You don't do like they do. You don't go and take care of all the things and watch carefully that you fast every day and that you wash your hands every minute of every day and that you do all the things that the book says you've got to do in order to be a great person in religion.